Good morning, everyone. This is Ron. Saturday morning, and feel like the year just started, and we're almost out of February already. I think today's the 24th, so things are steadily moving on. So, uh, see if we have any questions, any thoughts or questions about where we are or what we've talked about. I think the last couple of times we've kind of done Q&As. I am reminded that someone asked us a question. I think it was Valerie who asked us a question from Genesis 3 the last time we were together that is still on the table. Uh, but other than that, we'll come back to that one in just a minute. Are there any other thoughts or questions that anyone may have? Okay. Um, Valerie asked us a question from Genesis 3 that uh, we looked at. And what we decided to do was send the question to all the teachers so you guys could ponder it and maybe have a discussion on it today. If it's something you want to talk about, or if you're not seeing it yet, that's fine too. But I sent that to everyone from Genesis 3. The question really dealt with, let's see, the delight of her eyes. And I'm going to read verse 6 and 7. Chapter 3 of Genesis, verse 6 and 7. The woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was a light to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable to make one wise. She took from its fruit and ate, and she gave it up also to her husband. He ate with her, and the eyes of them both were open. And that was your question. What does it mean that the eyes of them both were open? And they knew that they were naked. So did anyone have a chance to look at that? Or do you want to shelve it for another time? I'll tell you where I am personally, and Pastor's out of town. He may or may not get on today with us. Hopefully, he will. Uh, but the last couple of weeks, as we've had our discussions and talked about things, and Pastor opened us up to a lot of stuff, and helping us see the connection with our history and in the scriptures, and the role that each one of them play on the spiritual journey that we're on, and even the energy that we see in the earth. All of that is part of the same type of type of type of thing that we're looking at here. Uh, so to me, anyway, it's kind of changed something. It just seemed like last week. I won't lie to you. When Val asked the question, it's not that it just felt different. I guess we're at a different place, and it's I'm almost like the part of in life where uh I have tried to be knowledgeable all my life, and I reach a point where I recognize I don't know anything, or I don't know what. So it's almost like a new beginning sort of feeling. And that's kind of how that struck me when the question was asked, and even my approach this week. Uh, so I look at scripture from kind of a different place. I recognize that I don't think we as a group have been here before, and I know individually I have not. So uh, it's exciting, and it's a little anxious at the same time to see what's next, or what we do with where we are. But that's how I approach this, and I looked at that scripture very cautiously. Uh, And you guys stop me if you see something or want to talk about something else, because I really don't really have anything. A pastor did, but this these verses kind of pondered me, and I went back to Genesis chapter 2. The last verse in Genesis chapter 2 is verse 25, and it says, "And the man and his wife were both naked, and they were not ashamed." So two words that stuck out to me there. What does it mean to be naked, and what does it mean to be ashamed? Uh, a shame here speaks of consciousness. It speaks of humiliation. It speaks of what you know, or what you uh, something that was revealed about you. Uh, so why is it at this point they were not ashamed? Uh, it speaks of guilt, but it tells you in verse, where does it say? Where does it talk again about being ashamed? Woman saw that tree was good for food, and that it would taste the light of them. Desired to make one while she took it, fruit and she gave to her husband. He did it. Now then both were open. They knew they were naked. They knew they were naked. Uh, why is it? Why is the knowledge of knowing you're naked all of a sudden cause a problem? So that's, just ask me. It asks more questions now than I guess I was prepared to. I am prepared to answer. But has anyone at all looked at this, or what are your thoughts on it?
Well, good morning, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is George in Philly. You know, I did have a chance to look at that, and again, just from my perception of it, it talked about the eyes being opened, and there was something that also was written that related to taste, and what I was just trying to reflect on in terms of how we use our senses and what does that mean to us individually when we talk about the eyes being open. And so I think that looking at it from our own perspective or our own intuition, what does it mean to have your eyes open? Can we see it um, from that, third eye, as we spoke about in the past? And so it just made me reflect on those thoughts, my perceptions of what I see, what I taste, what I hear. And if
Hmm.
that's all part of connecting to nature, just think about it. There was a time, when, again, people were walking in nudeness, and it wasn't a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. So how do we begin to form those perceptions? And that's just what made me think about what I was reading, because it talked about several of our senses. And so those were my thoughts a little bit on what I read, and now just spiritually trying to have some discernment about it, if that resonates a little bit in terms of our senses.
Yeah, not only does it resonate, Georgia, it makes perfectly good sense, because that's what I was talking about too. Remember, they're still in the spiritual form here. So is this an awakening of that our five senses? Is this was this talking about? The other thing that caught my attention in when you talk about sight and eyes, uh, it says the eyes of both of them were open. They were still one entity. They're still Adam. So is this the separation of man? Is this where uh, we started seeing things separately from what the creator has shown us? Where did it get to become in both of them. So it sounds like a separation of the masculinity and the femininity that is still in a spiritual place there. So all of that was part of my questioning. And her reasoning, because she reasons this down. She saw that it was the delight for to the eyes. She saw that it was good for food, and she saw that it was what make one wise. She saw that it was desirable. So what is being said there? You know, and yeah, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, this is for Mel. As you were talking, the things where it tastes good, those are all physical attributes we have. So my question is, did she and Adam, not wanting to put a noun on it, but did they suddenly see themselves in an illusion, I guess an illusionary world, the physical world? Is that what we're saying is occurring here?
Well, that's part of what we're pondering. I don't think they saw themselves in a physical world. I don't think that was even something they could see at this time. Keep in mind this is spiritual, and I think this is showing us a separation of the mind. I think there's a heck of a lot more to it than that. But because if you notice over the years, we keep coming back to these things, and we keep seeing different layers of it. And I think now, even though I say I think we're in a beautiful place, we're in a good place, that doesn't necessarily mean that understanding this becomes easier. At least it has not to me. So that's why I think on last week it kind of we kind of took a step back from it and looked at it from a different place. But all of your questions, are valid ones. But I can't say I really have the total answers for you.
Good morning, everyone. Could it be that prior to Eve and Adam, or Adam and Eve eating the apple, instructions were given? They were not moving in the likeness of being a god. However, after the apple was eaten, metaphorically speaking, it states, you will become wise. So I just look at it and it's not really a big deal. After the apple was ate, when it was said you would become wise, now you're on the same, may not be on the same playing field as the Creator, yet you will experience some things that he has experienced or she has experienced. So before the apple was, before they ate it, they really wasn't moving. They wasn't moving God-like. Yet after the apple was eaten, they had to maneuver God-like. They had to figure out, hey, it's cold. I need something to keep me warm. So I just look at it as that. Pre the apple being ate, they had to follow instructions, and they followed them the best that they could. After the apple was eaten, now they're more in the L&I likeness and image of the Creator. Thank you.
Yeah.
May I?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, I may not be on for a few moments. However, I would like to make an attempt anyway. When that was stated, that when they were talking about eating from the apple, right? Eating from the tree rather. Before I can even get to that portion of it, I have to back up and ask the question. Why is it? Why was it forbidden in the first place? And if it was forbidden in the first place, then um, what was forbidden? Was it the understanding of good and evil? Or was it knowledge? Was what was the forbidden? Which one is it? Because if you read in Hosea, I think it's Hosea 6, it says that my people perish for the lack of knowledge. And it goes on to say, the Creator goes on to say that the reason you have walked away from knowledge, and you have not accepted knowledge. Therefore, I will not accept you. I want to find that in just a moment from Hosea, because I want to read it and get some clarity with what I'm trying to say. Hosea 6, and what is it? Is it 6? No, not 6. It's Hosea 4 and 6, I think. My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge, because now this is what I'm saying. Because you have rejected knowledge, I will also reject you, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget your children. So if that is the case, then why would the Creator not want us to have knowledge? Hello?
Can it
Can you
be?
see, can you see my point based upon
Yeah,
what's Hosea?
yeah.
Yes.
Can it
Go
be?
ahead, Ron.
Well, I'm thinking about the motive. Can it be not because you want to know who you are, or be one with your Creator, but because you want uh, selfishness and greed? You want to use it for the wrong purpose.
Or could it be that is that it was mistranslated?
Yeah.
Could that be the case, you know?
Yes, yes, very well.
And if it's mistranslated, um, could it not very well be simply talking about at the moment that you eat, or that you become aware of this knowledge, you're going to surely die, meaning that you're going to have a different concept of self if once you do this. If they were not supposed, if the knowledge of good and evil was not supposed to be received, then why would it even be there? And I don't believe that it was a punishment. Surely dying was not a punishment. I think it was a difference in awareness as to what they were created, what it was created to be. Because when it says that the I, it does not say eyes. So this is 100% spiritual, because it says I instead of eyes. So could it very well be that that the Creator is saying, when you become aware of this understanding, you're going to be able to see more than you've ever seen, and meaning that have a concept of spirituality that you've never had before. Now, why is it that once this was done, the Creator decides that they have to leave the garden. Why? Is it because the Creator is saying to them, or to it rather, that now that you have become as aware as we are, no longer can you be here because you have not yet been able to understand or to accept good and evil. You don't understand it yet. You don't understand right and wrong. So until you understand it, you will not have access to the tree of life. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes sense. Um,
It,
Uh,
it
good
makes
morning.
sense, but I have questions. Um, and my first question is, why would the Creator put this tree in their midst in the first place? And the second question is, why would He allow this creature, this being that we call the serpent, to be
Hello?
there, in that place to pose the question in the first place? I mean, it's as if it was planned to happen that way or something. That's
Can
It
what
was.
I'm confused about.
can that be caused by the Adam himself, or before there was, before God puts him to sleep and shows him his feminine side, he brings him the animals to name. Can he be responsible for the serpent? It said it was more crafty than any beast of the field. So it was not foreign to him, or to it, the Adam. So can he be responsible for that? And I'm asking the question. I
So
don't know.
you're asking if it came out of Adam's thoughts?
Yes.
Mm, mm.
I would venture to say that the whole story itself is the mind of the entity called Adam. And the reason I say that is because um, everything began to take place after the awareness of masculinity and femininity. I believe that we're going to have to do much more study on this. And the reason I say that is because the translators, if you notice what's happening here, this is the first place in the scriptures where male chauvinism takes place. This is the first place where we begin to see male dominance. I do not believe that these scriptures, that this, especially this portion of it, is correctly translated. I do not believe that. I do believe that it was translated for the express purpose of male dominance, the way it was translated. Any
If you
questions or
go back
comments
to
about
Ben, yeah, if you go back to, good morning, this is Barbara. If you go back to Benner's, I guess, iteration of chapter 3, and Ron, what you were talking about, they were naked, the man and his wife, and that's what, Pastor, what you're talking about. They started putting words like wife, and they felt no shame, and that was in 2:25. But in chapter 3, Benner talks about something you taught, Pastor, related to their knowing function and dysfunction, that in the day they ate from him. And this is curious to me too. The way Benner translated this, number 4. And the serpent said to the woman, you shall certainly not die. Verse 5, this is 3:5. Given that Elohim knows that in the day you eat from him, then your eyes will be opened up and you will exist like Elohim, knowing function and dysfunction. 6, and the woman saw that the function of the tree is for nourishment, and that he is a yearning to the eyes, and the tree is a craving for making calculations. So it's like even this translation is putting a masculine kind of aspect to what the way that he described this. So I'm wondering if, in fact, function and dysfunction relate to understanding with the eye, not the eyes, with the eye, the basic function of everything. But at the same time, understanding, because you understand what the function is, you have knowledge of what dysfunction is. In other words, in order to know what function is, you need to know what dysfunction is. Vice versa. In order to know what dysfunction is, you need to know what function is. And I'm wondering if he was saying, if it was saying, okay, when you understand this, you will understand what the Creator understands to some extent, and that this was the opportunity for the entity to begin to calculate, to begin to machinate. In other words, use the mind, use that portion of itself to start making decisions. And was this an opportunity for them, if they knew dysfunction, to become dysfunctional, to make that decision to be dysfunctional, to lord power over creation, rather than to coexist with creation, as in chapter 2, where they were uncovered, but were comfortable in that uncoveredness. It didn't matter to them. But in this section of it, tree is for nourishment, and he is a yearning to the eyes. It's almost like this is the first beginning of the desire. What are those 3? Pride, lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and what was the next one? It's almost like they're leaning toward that dysfunctional aspect when after they ate after they partook of this knowledge of the tree of dysfunction and function. And I'm rambling because I didn't have an opportunity to look at this, so I apologize. But that's what I saw from Benna, that they had an opportunity to become like Elohim in terms of understanding all of this and making a decision to begin that process of domination rather than coexistence.
So,
Or I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry. So is this the beginning of free will?
It is. See, the whole story is put into place for the express purpose of bringing into existence free will. The dysfunctionality had to be the primary aspect of the entity. And the reason it had to be the primary aspect is because if it were not, then the entity would not be a creator. The entity was closed in flesh, meaning that the spiritual entity that was created was closed in flesh. And being clothed in flesh, that in itself was the beginning of the human in the earth. And that beginning of the human in the earth was also the beginning of the human becoming aware of who it is. So the Creator says, listen, here we are. I've created you. You have choices. And your choice is to be functional or dysfunctional. And I do believe that the dysfunctionality was orchestrated, so it was embraced. Now, in your state of dysfunctionality and your state of knowing good from evil, you have to make a choice which one that you are going to embrace. Until then, you will not be aware of the life, the spiritual source of life that you are. And the human begins to live in this earth and began to become one with everything that's created in this physical realm and become one with its creator. And as a result of becoming one with its creator, it was able to bring into existence societies that was never known in the earth and haven't been known since. And in order to be the creator, then the creator had to bring into existence other humans in its image and likeness, meaning that it had to create beings. And as a result of that, all of these different what we call races of people ended up in the earth. And while all of them are in the earth, there was an extreme brought into the earth. And that extreme was a mentality that was so brutal, no man could survive in its presence. So now here we are, all this time, there has been friction between good and evil, light and darkness. That friction has been constant ever since that contact was made with other people. And because of that contact having been made with other people and that friction being created, then now we are at a place where we are beginning to bring into existence an understanding of who we actually are, who we were created to be, not just in the physical sense, but who we are created to be in the spiritual sense, meaning that we are at a point now where we are aware that we are Elohim, we are aware of who we are. And as a result of being aware of who we are able to begin to to create rather in our image and likeness, meaning that all of these mindsets that are contrary to that of the creator, then those are being brought into check. How is that happening? Everything that was created with the spoken word. So by speaking and understanding the nature of spirituality, we are putting in the macro and understanding of what love and kindness, of what forgiveness and mercy, what it looks like, the experience of it all. And what happened is, because of that deep desire, the last years that we have traveled this journey, we have been initiated to the point where we are beginning to be shown what life looks like. And what happens in essence is when we become aware of what the scriptures are really saying to us, or what the Creator is really saying to us, and what we are, what our responsibilities are, it is at that point that we become as Elohim is. If we do not have a mindset in the minds of physical people, then we are not as above, so is below. So what I'm saying in essence is this: everyone has spirit, is spiritual, it's a spiritual being, but there are those who are spiritual beings as everyone else living in bodies, but their mind governs them rather than their soul. And we'll get into a place now where we're beginning to see that the soul is to govern the mind. And when the soul governs the mind, then as above, so is below. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, makes sense.
Any questions about that? Now, the other part of this is this. We cannot expect to understand the depths of it if we're going to do it in sections, because all of this happened at one time. And we're going to have to be able to process it in a story like it's happening at one time. We're going to have to be able to process it like from the period of the creation itself in terms of Genesis 1, tell the whole story as opposed to pieces of it. Because if we just tell pieces of it, it's hard to fit them together. Because just now, what I've talked about was everything from the entrance, from the entrance into the garden, the purpose for it, and what it meant for the tree of life, tree of good and evil, and the results of that being extricated from the garden and being clothed in flesh, et cetera, et cetera. All of that, that's what 2 chapters that's been talked about in 10 minutes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is we know for a fact, we know without any hesitation or reservation at all that the scriptures were written and were written in such a manner that it kept maleness dominating everything and manipulating everything. That's where we have to make the change. Now, why is it so difficult? It is so difficult because we are at a place where we have never been. We have never passed this way before. We have been at other points in this journey that we have seen as milestones. This is another milestone that we are looking at. And this milestone that we are looking at now is so different than anything that we've ever talked about. It is so spiritual until it is impossible for us to process it academically. That's not going to happen. We're going to have to process it spiritually, which means that it's going to take a lot of meditation. I almost said medication. It's going to take a lot of meditation, and it's going to take quite a bit of discussion. But it can be done. It must be done. And I do believe that this is where the mysteries lie. Understanding this shows us where the mysteries lie. Just as it is difficult for us to wrap our mind around what happened in Kemet and relate it to what happened here, it doesn't mean we can't do it. It means it must be done. And I am saying to you today that I'm going to revisit this. And of course, I encourage you to do it. I'm going to revisit these verses, especially when it talks about the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because there's no point in talking about eye being open or closed, for that matter, if we don't understand the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. If we don't understand those, this whole concept of being punished because you got knowledge is foreign to me. It's foreign to the scriptures, especially when you compare it to what's written in Hosea. So if you really think about this whole concept of knowledge, now, who is it that don't want you to have knowledge yourself? Everyone who don't want you to have knowledge of yourself is someone who does not have your well-being at heart. Am I right? Hello.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
right.
So if that's the case, then for me anyway, I can more easily see the reason there is a punishment for knowledge in this writing. There is no punishment for knowledge. The Creator expects us to seek knowledge. you can't be my priest because you have no knowledge. Is that not what Hosea said? I mean, right? Or is written in Hosea. I have rejected you. I have rejected your children, and I have rejected you as my priest because you have no knowledge. Knowledge of what?
I think the thing that we call punishment is responsibility.
I do
With,
too.
with knowledge comes responsibility.
Absolutely.
And
So
that's
it's
what,
not punishment.
right.
So I think I think that is going to have to be looked at spiritually, historically, and avoiding academic pursuit. We all of us have been taught to think in a European way. Our thoughts are stoic; they're not fluid at all. We have not been taught to think in a fluid manner. We have not been taught to think in a way that mystics think. Our processing says that this can't make sense because we are talking about Adam, the man. Our processing says that no matter how many times that we say that this is not about a man called Adam, that the ones who manipulate the scriptures made that a proper name for confusion as well as out of ignorance.
Can I say one more thing about it though?
Yeah.
The one aspect that I don't think we've discussed yet or looked at is the serpent said, if you do this, you will surely die. The serpent talked to the entity as though it was separated from God. We hadn't looked at that part yet. Where did that come? Where does the separation come from the Creator?
The question is there a separation?
Well, there isn't, but it's. I'm thinking about how and when we get in trouble. Could this have really started in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18? I think the one of the words we keep bringing up here is knowledge. Knowledge is an intimacy. Knowledge is what you experience. And it's not just knowing something, you come to know because you've experienced it, because you've been there before. Whether you deem it as good or bad, it is an experience that you've had that you learned from. And the knowledge here not only talks about you getting to know yourself, it's talking about understanding that I am one with the Creator. And that is the portion of it that we have yet to address, as that God himself put himself in the form to do this.
Now I want you to hear what you just said. This is my point. You just made my point. God himself.
Well, itself.
No, this is what I'm saying. That's why it is so difficult for us to deal with it, because we are talking about God himself. You see where I'm coming from? Our minds keep going back to personage as opposed to spiritual.
Yeah.
And there's the confusion.
Pastor, I have a question. Hello?
We hear you, Evelyn.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Was the serpent wrong? I know we said we're gonna try to not hop from situation to situation, but my question is, so was the serpent wrong? The day that you die, the day that you eat from this object, you shall surely die?
I would say that the serpent was not wrong. However, the serpent was deceitful. Was the serpent somewhat accurate in what his dialogue with Eve? Yes. And, I just stand on it that the serpent was deceitful. And one of the best ways of being deceitful is tell the truth. If you tell the truth, you can really be deceitful in it and how you can manipulate a situation. So with that knowledge, that's one of the reasons why Adam and Eve had to be exiled from the Garden of Eden. They had to gain their knowledge in increments. Too much knowledge is not good for you, especially if you don't know how to
Whoa,
work
whoa,
it.
whoa, whoa, no. Stop right there. No. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The too much knowledge is not good for you came from white folks who tried to make us Christians. Not too much. There is no such thing as too much knowledge. Too many lies is not good for you. But there's no such thing as too much knowledge.
Well, I stand corrected. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome,
I
sir.
hope I answered your question. Whoever, I think it was Miss Evelyn. I do think the serpent was deceitful just by using truth.
And see, what is the serpent?
You
What is
talking
the
to me,
serpent?
Reverend Richard?
Yeah. Anybody? What's the serpent?
Well, by way of the King James Bible, they said a serpent had some kind of courted Eve or had some kind of conversation with Eve.
So next, another question. So why don't snakes talk? Serpents talk now?
Oh, they do.
They
The
don't.
ones called human beings.
No,
well,
that's not what. No, that's not
Okay,
what I'm
yeah.
talking about, George. I'm being serious now. They don't. What I'm saying is this: we know that the whole Bible is allegory, and that serpent is an allegory for something, and the something that serpent is an allegory for, we have not clearly understood that yet. The idea of being naked is not being without clothes, because if it was naked, being without clothes, then how could it be spiritual? Because they don't have any sexual organs, because it's spiritual. They don't have a body to be naked. And the only way you can clothe a spirit is in a human body. Does that make sense? Hello?
It
Yes,
does.
So,
it
Rev,
does.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Was there really a serpent like we know it today, someone that slithers on his back? Or was it another human being just like Adam and Eve?
Or was it a thought, period, that was deceptive? Was it a deceptive thought? Or was it a thought? That's why I say we're going to look at this more. Because I have seen some things that has changed everything for me in terms of the first, second, and third chapter, especially when it comes to the creation of man. I have seen some things that have changed everything. And right now, am I prepared to deal with all of it? No, I'm not. But I am prepared to say to you that I don't understand it well enough to give you all the answers and understandings that you deserve. I will tell you that. And I will defer to a time when I'm more comfortable with what these understandings are. Because what I have found is that we really don't know what we don't understand, or to what degree we don't understand it until we start talking about it. And when we start talking
So-
about it and we start raising questions, then we begin to see that we need to look at it some more. Does that make sense?
It does. So would you like for me to
Yes.
ask that question at a later time? So we can visit it then? So we can visit it then?
Yeah, we definitely gonna have to visit it again, Ms. Evelyn. No question.
Yes, sir. Okay, because I want clarity on this as well. So thank you.
I'm not saying that no one understands it. I'm saying I don't.
Right. I got that, but I'm just saying,
Okay.
thank you.
Good morning, Pastor. I have a question. When we think about the entities being in the garden, and they are, and I'm just talking this out, and you're going to have to help me see it. They are 100% spirit, and they are, in my mind, communing in a place of 100%, and I'm going to use the word it being in sync 100% with the universe, creator, all that is. I guess my question becomes, because we talked about the serpent, and when you think of serpent, I'm still thinking cunning thoughts, because the serpent speaks of being cunning. But my question becomes, what state were they in? Because thinking about all that we've always been taught that we are now uprooting, you think your end game is to become spirit again. That's everything we're wanting to be. That's everything that this entity was. And so when we talk about eye opening, and we talk about eye opening to what? And we've through our conversation this morning, we kind of brought it down to free will. So my question is, what state were they in and being in total? Because I always saw them as being in total oneness with the Creator. And the eye opening to, you now have a choice to continue in this way, or you have the choice to go in a totally different direction if you choose to deny who you are. And so I'm trying to understand that spiritual state that they were in, or that the entity, let me get it right, the entity was in before the desire came to have the eye open to see that I don't have to continue this way if I choose not to. So are you understanding my question, or am I rambling? Is it
I
making
think I
any
am.
sense to you?
I think I am.
But put it in your words, because if you are understanding what I'm asking, because we have not looked at what we've talked about where they separated, and I get stuck right there, because if I'm the spirit living in a place of oneness with the Creator, what separation is there? What state were they in before all of this partaking of the knowledge of the fruit and then being able to make a choice for myself? Because if they're in the state that I think that they were in, then all of this was by design to give man that opportunity to choose where he wants to be, giving Adam that choice. And so correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm God. I'm the creator. This is what I'm doing. I'm the creator, and I know the end game. I know what it's going to be. This spiritual aspect of me that I'm bringing into existence. Eventually, I'm going to put it in flesh, because I want to make something like me. And in making something like me, how would I do that? I'm making something like me, then it's going to have opportunity to choose as I have chosen to be spiritual, and it's going to have opportunity to create as I create, and the personality or the characteristics of this entity that I'm creating, even in its fleshly manner, is going to have to make choices. And the choice that it's going to have to make is between what we call right and wrong. And it's going to make a decision whether right and wrong is going to be governed by the material thoughts of the mind based upon interactions, or are they going to um, deal with these characteristics based on the spiritual nature of who I, the creator, am. I'm going to give them that opportunity to do this. And in giving them that opportunity to do this, I'm going to make it so that they choose. And what I'm going to do is let them see within themselves what exists. And what exists within them is what I put in them. And this whole spiritual cluster that I'm bringing into existence, I put in it good and evil, meaning that I put it in unripeness and ripeness, and I put in it life. And this entity must come to its own conclusion that it is more than ripeness and unripeness. This entity has to come to its conclusion that it is just like I am, and that is life itself. Now, how does this entity come to this conclusion? What I'm going to do is put it in flesh. I'm going to give it experiences of what it means to be spiritual. And as it moves along this earth that I've created for it, it's going to be spiritual. And then it's going to move around this ball, this celestial ball called Earth, this physical ball. And moving around it is going to create beings in its shape, beings that look like it. And it brings into being these things that look like it, that we call humans. And all of them have spirit, but all of them don't have an understanding of spirituality. And those who do, they're going to have a streak of naivety in them. And the reason I want that streak of naivety in them is because I want them to be defeated. And I want them to be defeated to the point where it forces them to realize that they are truly the essence of me. And it is incumbent upon them to bring those entities that it created that looks like them, bring them to the place of understanding the same spiritual characteristics as I have shown them. The thing that I'm going to put in them physically is going to be a chemical, that chemical called melanin. And the ones who reject this whole notion of melanin are the main ones that this entity is going to have to teach, going to have to create this mindset in them so that they can be functional as well. However, the longer it take this entity, this human being, to bring into existence an awareness to these beings that it created, the longer it takes them to do that, the more they are dominated by these creatures that they brought into being. They are going to be, it's going to be that much harder for them to see who they really are. Once they begin to see who they really are and embrace it without fear and embrace it with a greater desire to have the knowledge not only of who they are in this human flesh, but who they are spiritually. Once they become aware of who they are and embrace it truly, it's only then that they will be able to make any attempt to bring into and understand the spirituality of those that it created. And when they do that, they become just as I am. The only difference is they will remain flesh, but they will be able to move between the earth as well as the spiritual realm. The human body will always be in existence, but the human nature that was developed in a way that is unripened will not always be in existence. It will not be the dominant force always. Am I making sense so far? Am I addressing your question?
Yes, you are, because that states that nothing was done in for trickery or by happenstance, but that it was all orchestrated by the Creator to play out this way. And we've been led to believe that you were fooled into this, and that's not true. It was by design, based on what you're saying.
Yes, and the deception is this. The deception is not something that happened there. The deception is something that became the characteristic of the human, unripeness. And how many times have we been deceived? We've been deceived into believing that we were Negroes. We've been deceived into believing that we are American. We've been deceived into believing that we are inferior. We've been deceived in all the deception is there in the characteristics. So that is to what I'm seeing is that this thing about the deception is a part of the characteristic that is going to manifest in the physical human. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
it
I
makes
do,
sense.
and I believe all of it happened at once. So the whole purpose of it, and of course, the part of the deception is going to be that you can't learn. And I'm gonna give you a classic example of that. How many times have we been told that enslaved people could not read and write? Have you ever heard that before?
Yes.
Yes.
You know what? They could not read and write English, but they could read and write in their language. See how that deception, how deep that deception was, to the point where you never even thought about them reading and writing in their own language. Make sense?
Yes.
So all of this is a message to us. And the message that it brings to us is describing to us the state that we are currently in and how we got to this state. That's it.
I have
So,
another
Pastor, I have a
question.
question. I'm sorry, I yield.
I can't hold out no longer. Go
You were
ahead.
talking before about the fact that this was kind of an example of masculine energy being brought to the forefront and sort of teaching that it's the dominant one.
Yes.
But could the serpent represent Kundalini energy, which is feminine creative power?
It could. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Absolutely. See, the Kundalini did not come out of thin air. Absolutely. See,
Okay, yeah, that's what it seems to me now that I'm thinking about it.
but I'm
Um,
saying that, but see, Audrey, when we talk about the serpent, we're not, we could represent that, but I'm not sure it does because of the nature of the serpent. This is not saying that that was a snake. This is saying that there is something that moved that is cunning as a snake. In other words, you don't hear it coming and you
Right.
don't know it's there until it's on you. That's why I do believe that the serpent was used as a symbol of the cunningness that's in the mindset of being unripened. You understand? You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I understand you.
Okay, so I would like to keep it as simple as possible until we can, at the very least, get a grasp on it until we can see it more clearly, and then we can add the other parts to it in terms of understanding. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Because right now we have people who we probably have people on the line who've never heard of Kundalini, or if they have, forgotten what it is. So that's why I say let's simplify it as much as possible, and then we will add the other parts to it. It's like building, using building blocks to bring in understanding. So all of this, all of what we are dealing with was foreseen. None of this was done haphazardly. Neither is it done now haphazardly. Even to the extent that the more you embrace who you are spiritually, the more obstacles you face, and the obstacles that you face now are seemingly the worst obstacles that you ever faced in your life and the hardest to deal with.
Pastor.
Yep.
Is Kathy okay with her question? And I think Evelyn also had a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. That answered my question. Thank you, Ron.
Yes, ma'am.
Ron, I'm not going to ask mine. It's a lot that's being said, and I'm trying to process, and I'm quite sure we all are. So I'm not going to say anything. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Pastor.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm done. I want all of us to make an effort to embrace this thing to the point where we can talk about it, and then do the other building blocks later on, like what it means to be Savior. What does that mean? How is it that we were brought into what we are, and we were given a belief system that said that some external being is going to save us, when that's not the truth. All that is to be added when we see the personality of the man that was created, or the being that was created. Because see, Adam is simply a personality. Adam is a personality that's in human form. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a personality, and if you really think about it, it's that the European mindset is what separated from man to male and female. That separation named Eve. When you look in the scripture, there's no name Eve. It is speaking to the attribute as opposed to a person. The same thing with Adam. Adam is both male and female. The source of life is the feminine part of Adam. So this is just a personality. There is no separation between what is called Adam and Eve. There is no separation, because when you say Adam, you're saying male, female. When you say Eve, you're talking about a womb. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So anyway, I hope I didn't confuse you guys.
No, we're right back where we started.
Yeah. Back at the beginning, right?
Right back at the beginning. I love the discussion, though. I love talking this out. And yeah, we'll revisit it. Is there anyone else any questions or comments on what we're discussing before I ask if you have anything else? Okay, so I guess we'll kind of shelve this from right now and continue to give it some thought, because I really think, my opinion, this holds the key to a lot of things we're trying to see and get to. So it's no coincidence that we keep visiting these first early chapters in Genesis. So anything else? Any other thing that grabbed your attention that you'd like to discuss?
Yeah. Good morning, Ron. This is George, Philly.
Morning, George. Yes, sir.
What grasped my attention again is when Pastor spoke about beginning created Elohim, and as we go back to the beginning and to seek again understanding in terms of what the scriptures are saying, I think that again taking the time to reflect would be great, because if beginning created Elohim, then I think that we go back to chapter 1, when we talk about, in the beginning. And so if that manifested before Elohim, then I think this is what we're seeking, again, in my opinion. So I think that, we're there, like you said, there's a reason why we're at beginning. So I just wanted to share those thoughts. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, George,
And see,
that's about, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pastor. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's again something we could explore and take a closer look at, because I fully don't understand that either. So, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We gonna have to do that because the whole concept of Elohim is wrong. Because we say the word Elohim, but we are applying what we mean by God to that, and that's not it. Elohim is creator, is spiritual creation. And if you look at Yahweh Elohim, we're talking about characteristic of the spiritual source of light that manifested all of what we have talked about this morning. Elohim is not God the way we think it is. That scripture says, Bereshit bara Elohim. It does not say in the beginning. It says beginning created Elohim. That's what it says. So what does it mean? What is beginning? Ein Sof. That's what beginning. The light upon of all light. The unspeakable name. That's what brought into existence this thing this called Elohim, with the express purpose of bringing into existence us, humans. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, as long as I've been studying with this group, I maybe I just never heard it put quite that way. Elohim being not the portion of God that we thought it was. It merely means to have the ability to create. Is that what I understand you to say?
It means to have the ability to create. Okay. Now, it is one yet many, right?
Okay.
What did it do? It created, right?
Okay.
When did it create? It created after chapter 1. Bereshit bara Elohim. In the beginning, the beginning created Elohim. When Elohim was brought into existence, all the rest of the stuff began to be brought into existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what did it do? Everything it brought into existence, it said, and this is beneficial. Beneficial to whom? Beneficial to the entity that I'm going to bring into existence. So our concept of God is different than Elohim. We have an academic concept of God. We have a racist concept of God. That's not Elohim. If Elohim was all in all, then why is it that it says Yahweh Elohim in chapter 2 of Genesis when it began to make the man from the dust? Why does it say that? Did you understand where I'm coming from? Because
Yeah.
Yahweh is not introduced into the second chapter. That's what I'm saying.
I have
And
one
let me
quick
stop.
question. I said I wasn't gonna ask nothing. I'm sorry. And we could take this up whenever y'all want to, but my question is, where does Patah come in?
Don't want to touch Patar right now.
Okay,
Don't want to touch,
thank you.
but not right now, because the day is going to come when there is going to be the creation that was written in Kemet and the creation that was written 10,000 years later, okay? The creation that
Thank you.
we are talking about now was written thousands of years after the creation that was written in Kemet. That's what I'm saying, okay? So we don't want to touch that
Thank
now
you.
because okay, you're welcome. I quit right now. I don't quit. I'm just done for right now. I hope that you guys will listen at this again and form more questions. The more questions you have, the clearer it becomes. At least I believe that. Right?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
I'm done.
We okay, y'all? Where are we? Might be a good place to kind of ponder this for a while. You guys agree?
You don't want to leave anybody with it who may
Yes.
have questions. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll hopefully, go back and listen to it, and we'll pick it up when it's time to pick it up, whether that's tomorrow or whenever. Just kind of feel in and go from there. But again, I feel very positive for who we are and where we are, and I love the understanding. It's funny, all of this, every time we go over these same scriptures, it reveals something else, and that feels beautiful to me. Okay, have a great day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care, guys.
Thank you, everyone.